Prime Minister Ishiba's $1 trillion investment in the U.S. Ongoing negotiations in Ukraine. Will Japan be exploited for reconstruction? Practice simulator. Prime Minister Ishiba's announcement of $1 trillion investment in the United States has sparked significant controversy. This enormous sum, equivalent to 150 trillion yen, raises questions about its purpose and the source of funding. Is there a clear plan behind this commitment? Using Ishiba's statement as a starting point, this article explores Japan's foreign aid strategy, the risks associated with post-war Ukraine reconstruction, and the prudent strategies Japan should adopt. A major concern is the post-war reconstruction of Ukraine. According to the World Bank, Ukraine's recovery will require $511 billion, approximately 75 trillion yen, and the key issue is how the international community will distribute the financial burden. Historically, Japan has often played a proactive role in international aid, ultimately serving as the cash cow in many cases. Will this U.S. investment in Ukraine reconstruction support benefit Japan, or will it simply become another financial burden? Based on past examples and the current international climate, it is crucial to consider an effective approach to aid. Instead of providing unconditional assistance, Japan must establish a framework where Japanese companies can secure contracts and ensure that financial contributions are shared equitably with other nations. A more strategic diplomatic policy is essential. The worst-case scenario is that Japan is left shouldering an excessive financial burden alone. Looking at past international aid cases, Japan has often contributed large sums, only to see the actual benefits go to foreign companies. For example, even though Japan provided financial assistance, Chinese contractors ultimately secured the projects. Such a situation, where Japanese tax money disappears without contributing to the domestic economy, would be difficult for the public to accept. Therefore, when Japan provides financial support, it must set appropriate conditions. For example, in infrastructure reconstruction, Japanese companies should take the lead, ensuring that technology transfers and material supplies benefit the domestic economy. Former President Trump has already begun discussions with Russian President Putin, and there are reports that he has proposed a joint rare earth mining project in Ukraine to President Zelensky. The world is making calculated moves behind the scenes. Another approach to supporting Ukraine is offering low-interest loans instead of direct financial aid. Collaborating with international organizations and structuring shared financial commitments among nations could also be viable strategies. Japan must explore ways to contribute to the global community while minimizing its financial strain. The biggest concern is that if the war in Ukraine ends under Ishiba's administration, he may rush to pledge massive financial support. While the trillion-dollar investment might have some rationale, there is a possibility that it is merely political posturing. Many believe that Russia, as the aggressor, should bear the primary financial responsibility for Ukraine's reconstruction. Additionally, China and India, which have maintained economic cooperation with Russia, should also share the burden. Establishing a fair mechanism for distributing financial responsibility among these nations is crucial. This article delves into Ishiba's investment strategy, Japan's role in Ukraine's reconstruction, and the diplomatic strategies Japan should pursue in the evolving international landscape.
Practice simulator.
Prime Minister Ishiba's trillion-dollar statement. On February 7, 2025, during a joint press conference with U.S. President Trump, Prime Minister Ishiba announced a $1 trillion investment in the United States, triggering widespread debate. Given Japan's ongoing economic stagnation, many citizens question why such an enormous sum is being allocated abroad. The liberal stance on foreign aid. This trend is a continuation from the Kishida administration, which actively provided substantial aid to Ukraine, supported development projects in emerging economies, and contributed to economic assistance through the G7 framework. Japan has effectively become the wallet of the international community. A household comparison. This situation can be likened to a family where the father spends lavishly outside, maintaining a good public image, while forcing frugality on his own household. The Japanese public faces tax hikes and increased social security costs, while foreign aid continues generously. Foreign aid should be strategic. Foreign aid should serve Japan's national interests. However, current policies often involve providing funds without securing any return benefits. It is time for Japan to reassess its approach. While mimicking China's debt trap diplomacy is unnecessary, Japan should at least adopt some strategic elements from it.
The best way to master trading. With Simulator.
What happens after the Ukraine war ends? Trump previously stated that he could end the Ukraine war within 24 hours, but since assuming office, he has adjusted his remarks to suggest a 6-month timeline. While a swift end to the conflict is desirable, a significant risk arises if the war concludes during Ishiba's administration. Enormous reconstruction costs. The key issue following the war's end is the staggering cost of Ukraine's reconstruction. The World Bank estimates that rebuilding the country will require $511 billion, approximately 75 trillion yen. The primary question is who will bear this cost? Who should pay? Ideally, Russia, as the aggressor, should take full responsibility. Additionally, China and India, which maintained economic cooperation with Russia, should contribute, as well as the US and EU, which supplied arms to Ukraine. However, in reality, Russia is unlikely to pay reparations. The US prioritizes its domestic interests, and the EU faces financial difficulties. Who will be forced to pay? Given these circumstances, there is a high likelihood that Japan will be pressured into taking on a significant share of the financial burden for Ukraine's reconstruction. If this happens, Japan's economy could suffer further strain, leading to increased financial pressure on its citizens.
The best way to master trading. With Simulator.
The worst-case scenario. If the war ends under Ishiba's administration, there is a serious risk that Japan will be the first to pledge substantial reconstruction funds. The alarming aspect of this administration is its tendency to make diplomatic commitments without proper internal discussion. The risk of another trillion-dollar statement. Can we completely rule out the possibility of a similar commitment to Ukraine's reconstruction? Just as Japan pledged $1 trillion to the U.S., it is conceivable that a major financial commitment to Ukraine could follow. While supporting Ukraine is not inherently negative, there must be transparency and accountability to the Japanese public. What Japan must avoid? Japan must avoid becoming a financial donor while other countries secure contracts. This pattern has been seen in past foreign aid projects and must be prevented. Additionally, Japan must be cautious of no-return financial grants, IMF or World Bank-backed loans where Japan takes on guarantees, and G7 initiatives where Japan disproportionately leads funding. The preferred approach. Instead of direct financial aid, Japan should promote infrastructure reconstruction projects where Japanese companies take the lead. If financial support is provided, it should be in the form of low-interest loans with repayment obligations. Moreover, Japan must ensure that China and India also contribute their fair share.
Practice Simulator.
How Japan can become a smart donor. As the Ukraine war nears its conclusion, Japan must prepare for the inevitable calls for reconstruction support. However, to avoid simply being a cash cow, Japan must structure its aid to benefit its economy and ensure burden sharing with the US, EU, China, and India. The current administration has shown an active stance on economic cooperation with China, raising concerns that Japan's financial support for Ukraine's reconstruction could ultimately benefit Chinese companies. Looking at past examples of international aid, there have been cases where Japan provided funds, yet Chinese companies secured the contracts. Therefore, a cautious approach is essential. National interest first. This is not to suggest that Japan should refrain from participating in Ukraine's reconstruction support. As a developed nation, collaborating with the international community and providing aid is considered a fundamental responsibility. However, it is crucial to establish a framework where Japanese companies can secure appropriate benefits from such assistance. While the Ministry of Finance expresses concerns over fiscal deficits, the current administration and former Prime Minister Kishida remain actively engaged in foreign aid. However, ensuring Japan's domestic economic growth should be the top priority. If Japan achieves sustainable economic expansion, public understanding and support for international aid will naturally increase.
Thank you for watching until the end. We develop tools and share insights to support your trading journey. If you found potential in what we offer, we'd greatly appreciate it if you subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.